6 years ago, he walked away from her without a second thought. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. He built an empire, became a powerful CEO, and buried the past behind boardrooms and billions. Until one quiet afternoon, while sipping his coffee at an upscale cafe, two little voices interrupted his world. "Can we have lunch with you?" They asked, standing at his table, a boy and a girl, twins, about 5 or 6. And the moment he looked into their eyes, everything inside him froze. Because those weren't just any children, they looked exactly like him. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Whether you're a first-time viewer or part of our amazing community of story lovers, I'm truly grateful you're here. This is a story about love, loss, accountability, and the innocent voices that can shake even the coldest heart. If you enjoy emotional, powerful stories with real depth and unforgettable twists, then go ahead and like this video, subscribe for more gripping content, and share it with someone who still believes in redemption and truth. Now, take a breath, lean in, and let's begin one of the most touching stories you'll hear today. The homeless twins approach the millionaire CEO asking only for lunch, never imagining they're talking to a father they've never met. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. The morning light filtered through the narrow bathroom window of the Pearson Holloway investment firm as Maya Rodriguez adjusted her receptionist uniform, a crisp white blouse tucked into a navy pencil skirt. She leaned closer to the mirror, scrutinizing her appearance with critical eyes. "Good morning. Welcome to Pearson Holloway. How may I assist you today?" She practiced carefully enunciating each syllable, softening the roll that had betrayed her Puerto Rican heritage. She tried again, this time slightly altering her intonation. "Good morning. Welcome to Pearson Holloway. How may I assist you today?" Better, but still not perfect. Maya sighed, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. At 23, she was the youngest receptionist at the prestigious Manhattan firm, and certainly the only one working her way through design school. The job paid well enough to cover her tuition at the New York School of Interior Design, but the unspoken requirement to minimize her accent to become less herself was an exhausting tax on her spirit. A final glance at her watch told her it was time. With a deep breath, Maya stepped out of the bathroom and into the gleaming marble lobby of Pearson Holloway, taking her position behind the curved reception desk that served as the gatekeeper to the financial elite. The morning passed in a blur of phone calls and visitor check-ins until the soft ding of the elevator at precisely 11:37 changed everything. Maya looked up, her rehearsed greeting dying on her lips as a tall figure in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit stepped out. His confident stride faltered momentarily as their eyes met across the lobby. Alexander Bennett, the rising star analyst whose family name graced the firm's client list and whose reputation preceded him throughout the office, was staring directly at her. For 3 inexplicable seconds, neither moved. His blue eyes, startlingly clear, like Caribbean waters on a cloudless day, held hers with an intensity that made her forget the practiced English phrases she'd been perfecting all morning. Then, as suddenly as it had happened, the moment broke. Alexander continued his path toward the exit, nodding slightly in her direction, the ghost of a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. 2 days later, he appeared at her desk again, this time with an armful of documents that tumbled from his grasp just as he reached her station. "Let me help you with those," Maya said, coming around the desk as papers scattered across the polished floor. "Clumsy of me," Alexander said, though something in his easy smile suggested the accident might not have been entirely accidental. As they gathered the papers, their fingers brushed and Maya felt a jolt of electricity that had nothing to do with the building's static carpeting. "I don't think we've been properly introduced," he said, standing to his full height. "Alexander Bennett." "I know who you are, Mr. Bennett," Maya replied, handing him the last of the papers. "I'm Maya Rodriguez." "Maya," he repeated, as if testing how her name felt on his tongue. "Would you like to have dinner with me tonight, Maya?" The directness of his question caught her off guard. Office romances were discouraged at Pearson Holloway, especially between executives and support staff, but the intensity in those blue eyes made her reckless. "Yes," she heard herself say, "I would." That evening, Alexander took her to Le Bernard, where the menu had no prices, and the sous-mayor addressed him by name. Maya felt acutely out of place from the moment the maitre eyed her simple dress to her hesitation over which fork to use for the seafood course. "Try the bouillabaisse," Alexander suggested, noticing her overwhelmed scan of the French menu. "It's magnificent here." The dinner was equal parts exhilarating and intimidating. Alexander spoke of his Harvard education, his family's 3 generations at the New York Stock Exchange, and his plans to become the youngest partner in Pearson Holloway history. Maya found herself captivated by his ambition and the easy confidence with which he navigated a world so different from her cramped Brooklyn apartment and night classes. "And what about you?" he asked eventually. "What brings Maya Rodriguez to the fortress of capitalism?" She laughed softly. "Tuition for design school. I'm studying interior design at NYSID. A creative," he said with genuine interest. "I'd love to see her work sometime." 3 weeks later, Alexander sat on Maya's worn sofa in her modest Brooklyn apartment, flipping through her portfolio with surprising attentiveness. The contrast between him and his casual weekend, where that still probably cost more than her monthly rent, and her eclectic budget-furnished apartment was stark. "These are remarkable," he said, lingering over her sketches of a transformed urban loft. "You have a real eye for spatial relationships." Pride warmed her chest. "Thank you. With the right connections, you could really make something of this talent," he added, closing the portfolio. The compliment carried an undercurrent that didn't escape her. The implication that her talent alone might not be enough, that she needed doors open for her. But then his lips were on hers, and she pushed the thought away. Their relationship evolved with dizzying speed. Alexander introduced her to a world of 5-star restaurants, weekend getaways to the Hamptons, and cocktail hours at rooftop bars overlooking a Manhattan skyline that always felt just out of reach. Maya noticed the occasional raised eyebrow when she was introduced as Alexander's date, the whispered comments about the Latina receptionist that weren't quite quiet enough. One evening during a corporate happy hour, she overheard a senior partner's wife asking Alexander, "Is it serious or just a phase?" The question hung in the air between them on the cab ride home, unacknowledged but palpable. Maya reciprocated by introducing Alexander to her world, taking him to her aunt's Puerto Rican restaurant in Brooklyn, where the salsa music was loud and the mofongo was made the way her grandmother had taught her cousins. "This is interesting," Alexander said, politely eating his dinner, but suggesting they try that new fusion place in Tribeca for their next date. He was cordial to her friends and neighbors, but visibly relieved when they returned to Manhattan. Their differences surfaced in small ways. Alexander would ignore calls from his mother when they were together, explaining later that she wouldn't understand. When Maya asked what there was to understand, he changed the subject. But beneath these fault lines, there was something real growing between them. On a crisp autumn evening in Central Park, Alexander kissed her as the sunset painted the sky in hues of orange and pink. "You're different from anyone I've ever known," he whispered against her lips. "You see the world in colors I never knew existed." In Maya's bed, tangled in her threadbare but clean sheets, they made plans for a future that seemed both impossible and inevitable. Alexander traced patterns on her bare shoulder, whispering, "One day, I'm going to show the entire world to you." "I'd be happy with just a small corner of it," she replied, "as long as we're there together." Maya confided in Carmen, her Dominican neighbor, who had lived in the building for 20 years and had become something of a surrogate mother to her since she'd moved to New York. "Be careful, Nia," Carmen warned as they shared coffee on her small balcony. "Men like him don't marry women like us." "Alexander is different," Maya insisted, though a small voice inside her wondered if Carmen's warning carried the weight of experience. As summer turned to fall, Alexander invited Mia for a weekend at his family's beach house in the Hamptons. She spent days planning what to pack, splurging on a new sundress she couldn't really afford. 2 days before they were set to leave, he Ken-led. "Family commitments came up," he explained vaguely over the phone. "My mother is insisting I attend some charity gala." "I'm sorry, Maya." That night, lying alone in her bed, Maya realized her period was late. She stared at her calendar, counting days, recounting, then counting again as if the numbers might rearrange themselves into a less frightening pattern. The following week, Alexander whispered, "I love you," for the first time as they lay together in her apartment, the city lights casting shadows across her bedroom wall. Maya held him tighter, the secret of her possibly pregnancy heavy in her chest. She decided to take a test the next morning. If it was positive, she would tell him immediately. After all, he loved her. He had plans for them. A baby would simply accelerate the future. They'd already begun sketching together. That night, as Alexander's even breathing filled her small bedroom, Maya allowed herself to imagine a new future, one with child who had Alexander's striking blue eyes and her dark curls, a perfect blend of their two worlds. As she drifted to sleep in Alexander's arms, Maya couldn't have imagined that in just 3 weeks she would be alone, evicted, and pregnant, hearing from him the words that would mark her life forever. "You will never be enough for my world." Maya spent the entire morning preparing a special breakfast in her tiny Brooklyn kitchen. The smell of coffee mingled with fresh cinnamon rolls, Alexander's favorite, as she arranged a small vase of daisies on the table. The positive pregnancy test lay hidden in her pocket, its life-changing message, both terrifying and exhilarating. She had rehearsed different ways to tell him, settling on something simple and direct after they'd shared a beautiful morning together. Perhaps the domestic scene would soften the news, showing him a glimpse of the family they could become. Her phone buzzed with a text from Alexander. "Running late. Family breakfast ran long. Be there in 30. Maya sighed, adjusting the place settings again. Family breakfast. Another reminder of the world she glimpsed but never fully entered. The Bennett Sunday traditions that Alexander mentioned but never invited her to join. By the time his sharp knock came, the cinnamon rolls had cooled and Maya had changed outfits twice, finally settling on a simple sundress that made her feel confident. "Sorry I'm late," Alexander said, stepping inside with none of his usual warmth. His brow was furrowed, his normally immaculate appearance slightly disheveled. "The meeting with my father's financial advisors went longer than expected." "I thought you said family breakfast," Maya noted, immediately regretting her words when his expression hardened. "That too." He loosened his tie, collapsing onto her sofa without noticing the carefully set table. "God, what a morning. My father and the board are pressuring me about the Mallister account. If I land it, I'm on track for junior partner at Pearson Holloway." Maya sat beside him, her prepared speech evaporating. "That's what you've been working toward," she said carefully. "Exactly. I'm so close, Maya." His eyes brightened as he talked about the promotion, the corner office, the recognition. "Just one more big push, and I'll be the youngest junior partner in the firm's history." Maya took a deep breath. There would never be a perfect moment. "Alex, I need to tell you something important." He glanced at her, distracted. "Can it wait? I've had a hell of a morning." "No," she said quietly. "It can't wait." She withdrew the pregnancy test from her pocket, holding it between them like a fragile bridge. "I'm pregnant." Alexander stared at the plastic stick, uncomprehending at first. Then, as understanding dawned, his face transformed, not with joy or even concern, but with unmistakable horror. "Pregnant?" The word came out strangled. "You're pregnant?" Maya nodded, her throat tight. "About 6 weeks, I think." Alexander stood abruptly, pacing her small living room in 3 quick strides. "A pregnancy now? You have any idea what this means for my career? I'm 1 step away from becoming junior partner at Pearson Holloway." The vehemence in his voice startled her. "I thought we might be able to make it work. We could be a family." A harsh laugh cut her off. "Family with you." Alexander's eyes widened as if she'd suggested something absurd. "Be realistic, Maya. You're a Latina receptionist from Brooklyn, and I'm a Bennett. My family has held a seat on the stock exchange for 3 generations." Each word landed like a physical blow. Maya struggled to reconcile this cruel stranger with a man who had whispered dreams against her skin just nights before. "What are you saying?" she asked, though the answer was already crystallizing in the cold blue of his eyes. "I'm saying you'd never be accepted in my world," Alexander replied, his voice dropping to a controlled, measured tone that was somehow worse than his earlier outburst. "This is just reality, Maya. We come from different places." "I thought that didn't matter to you," she whispered. Alexander ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it further. It was fun while it lasted. But this, he gestured toward the pregnancy test. She still clutched. This changes everything. Maya stood, finding strength in the sudden clarity of the moment. So, what do you want me to do? Be sensible, he said, not meeting her eyes. This isn't the right time for either of us. The implication hung in the air between them. Maya wrapped her arms around her middle, unconsciously protective. I need to think, she said finally. I think you should go. Alexander left without argument. The door closing behind him with a quiet click that seemed to echo in the sudden emptiness of her apartment. Maya sank to the floor, the untouched breakfast and cheerful daisies now seeming like props in a play whose script had suddenly changed. 2 weeks passed with no word from Alexander. Maya's calls went unanswered, her texts unread. She began to accept that he had already made his choice, but the confirmation she received at her doctor's appointment still left her reeling. Congratulations, Ms. Rodriguez, the obstetrician said, pointing to the ultrasound screen. Do you see these 2 separate sacs? You're carrying twins. Twins. The word echoed in Maya's mind as she walked out of the clinic into bright spring sunshine. 2 babies, 2 heartbeats. She pulled out her phone, her finger hovering over Alexander's name. Despite everything, he deserved to know. His response was immediate and chilling. Meet me at Café Lucien at 2. Come alone. The cafe was deliberately chosen, far from his office, in a neighborhood where none of his colleagues would venture. Alexander was already seated at a corner table when Maya arrived, an envelope placed precisely before him. Twins, he said without preamble as she sat down. You're sure? Mia nodded, sliding the ultrasound image across the table. Alexander barely glanced at it. I've given this a lot of thought, he said, pushing the envelope toward her. This should be enough. Maya opened it to find a check with more zeros than she had ever seen. Her hands began to shake. What is this for? To solve the problem, Alexander replied, his voice clinical. It's generous enough for a discreet procedure and a few weeks of recovery. I've included a reference to a private clinic upstate. Understanding crashed over her like ice water. You want me to terminate the pregnancy? It's a sensible solution, he said, checking his watch for both of us. Maya stared at the check at the casual way he had put a price on their children's lives. With deliberate slowness, she tore the check in half, then quarters, then A's, letting the pieces fall between them. I'm having these babies, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Alexander's expression hardened. Then you'll have to do it without me. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket in one practiced motion. Choose, Maya, me or these children. I can't let unwanted obstacles interfere with my path to the top of Pearson Holloway. They're not obstacles, Maya said, one hand moving protectively to her still flat stomach. There are children. Alexander leaned down, his voice dropping to a cold whisper. You will never be enough of the world I belong to, Maya. Not you, not what you're carrying inside you. He straightened, dropped a $20 bill on the table for a coffee he hadn't touched, and walked away without looking back. That evening, Maya returned from a shift at her aunt's restaurant to find an email notification blinking on her phone. The message from Pearson Holloway's HR department was brief and devastating. Her position had been terminated, effective immediately due to concerns about her emotional stability and professional conduct. Alexander had erased her completely. 3 days later, a notice of eviction appeared on her door, her landlord citing late payments that had never been late before. Within a week, Maya's carefully constructed life had crumbled entirely. Pregnant with twins, unemployed, and facing homelessness, she sat on the bathroom floor of her soon-to-be former apartment, staring at the wall, wondering how the world could collapse so quickly. For one dark moment, she considered the abyss. What future could she offer these children alone and starting from nothing? The thought slithered through her mind like poison, but was interrupted by a firm knock on her door. Carmen stood in the hallway, concern etched in the lines of her face. Mija, I haven't seen you in days. What's happening? The simple kindness broke the dam. Maya collapsed into her neighbor's arms, sobs tearing from her throat as she confessed everything. The pregnancy, Alexander's abandonment, the job loss, the eviction notice. Carmen held her tightly, her weather hand steady on Maya's back. Listen to me. You will come stay with me until you figure things out. My apartment is small, but there is room for you. I can't ask you to do that, Maya protested weakly. You didn't ask, I offered. Carmen's expression brooked no argument. Besides, I work double shifts cleaning at the Marriott. Someone should be home using the apartment. That night, Maya moved her essential belongings into Carmen's tiny one-bedroom apartment in the Bronx. Carmen insisted Maya take the bedroom while she slept on the pull-out couch. Pregnant women need proper rest, she declared, arranging Mia's few possessions with the efficiency of someone used to making space where none existed. Over the following weeks, Maya rebuilt her life one painful piece at a time. She found work as a receptionist at a medical clinic during the day, took shifts at a diner in the evenings, and stayed up late designing logos for small businesses as a freelancer. The schedule was punishing, especially as her pregnancy advanced, but the alternative was unthinkable. Every night, she collapsed into Carmen's bed, her body aching, her mind calculating how many more hours of work she needed to afford a place of her own before the twins arrived. When her labor began 2 months earlier than expected, Maya was alone at the diner clearing tables during the dinner rush. The first contraction doubled her over, water glass shattering on the linoleum floor as her water broke simultaneously. Someone call an ambulance, the manager shouted, helping Mia to a chair. Hang on, honey. Help is coming. In the crowded public hospital, Mia gripped Carmen's hand through 18 hours of labor. When the twins finally arrived, small but healthy, the delivery room nurse placed them in Maya's arms, their tiny faces scrunched and red. Look at those eyes, the nurse remarked. Such a beautiful blue, like little sapphires. Maya gazed at her children, recognizing immediately the crystalline blue that marked them unmistakably as Bennett's. Noah and Lena, names she had chosen during lonely nights, blinked up at her with eyes that were a mirror image of their father's. Exhausted but determined, Maya gathered her newborns close. In the sterile hospital room, with only Carmen as witness, she made a promise that would sustain her through the years ahead. One day he'll look at you and realize what he gave up. And when that day comes, we'll be strong enough not to need him anymore. That night in the hospital, exhausted and frightened, Maya couldn't predict that 6 years later, it would be chance that would bring her children face to face with a man who had denied their existence, triggering a storm that would change all their lives forever. That night in the hospital, exhausted and frightened, Maya couldn't predict that 6 years later, it would be chance that would bring her children face to face with a man who had denied their existence. For now, her entire world had narrowed to the 2 tiny beings sleeping in the hospital bassinet beside her bed. The first months passed in a blur of sleepless nights and endless feedings. Carmen's tiny apartment became a makeshift nursery with donated baby items crammed into every available corner. Maya learned to nurse both twins simultaneously, balancing their tiny bodies while studying for her design courses between feedings. You should rest when they sleep, Carmen would scold, finding Maya hunched over textbooks at 4 o'clock in the morning, dark circles under her eyes. I can't afford to fall behind, Maya would reply, her voice raspy with exhaustion. My degree is our ticket out of here. Her daily routine became a carefully choreographed marathon. She would wake at 4:30, the pre-dawn darkness still blanketing the Bronx as she nursed the twins. By 5:15, she was showered and dressed for her receptionist job at the community clinic, the twins bundled in their second-hand stroller. These precious angels, cooed Mrs. Patel, the elderly clinic administrator who allowed Maya to keep the twins in the break room. Such unusual eyes. Mia worked the front desk until 2, fighting through morning sickness that lingered well past her first trimester. Between patient check-ins, she would dash to the break room to nurse or change the twins, sometimes hiding in the bathroom when waves of nausea overwhelmed her. By 3, she was at Lily's diner 6 blocks away. Twins now sleeping in a portable playpen behind the counter. Can't you keep them quieter? The manager would complain when Lena's colic made her wail inconsolably. Customers don't come here for baby concerts. Maya would nod apologetically. swallowing her pride as she bounced Lena while taking orders, her feet swollen and painful in the cheap orthopedic shoes she'd found at the Salvation Army. Nights brought a different kind of work. After the twins finally fell asleep around 9, Maya would power up the ancient laptop Carmen had salvaged from a neighbor's trash. She taught herself basic graphic design from library books and now earned a meager $20 per logo for local businesses, bodegas, hair salons, food trucks. "You have natural talent," wrote one satisfied client, a Caribbean restaurant owner who tipped her an extra $10. "You should charge more." But Maya couldn't risk losing clients by raising her rates. Every dollar was accounted for. Formula when her milk supply dwindled from exhaustion, diapers, the mounting pile of medical bills from the twins' premature birth. When the twins turned 4 months old, Maya developed a hacking cough that wouldn't subside. For weeks, she ignored it, unable to afford time off. One Tuesday morning, she collapsed at the clinic's front desk, her fever spiking at 103 degrees. Pneumonia, diagnosed Dr. Chun, the clinic's medical director, after examining her. "You need rest and antibiotics. At least a week off work." "I can't," Maya whispered, tears of frustration welling. The twins, the rent. Dr. Chun studied her face, noting the hollow cheeks and desperate eyes. "There's a program for single mothers at St. Mary's Church. Let me make a call." The church's assistance program provided 2 weeks of emergency rent help and connected Maya with a food bank. The clinic staff organized a rotation to help with the twins while Maya recovered, each taking turns sitting with the baby so Carmen could work her hotel cleaning shifts. "People are good," Carmen told her one evening, spooning homemade chicken soup into Maya's mouth as she propped herself up weakly. "You must learn to accept help sometimes." By the time the twins reached their first birthday, Maya had finished her design coursework online, graduating with honors. Despite everything, there was no ceremony she could attend. She was working double shifts that day, but Carmen bought a small cake, placing a single candle on it. "For all 3 of you," she said, "new beginnings." The twins were growing fast, their Bennett blue eyes drawing comments wherever Maya took them. Noah developed first, walking at 10 months, his determination evident in the set of his tiny jaw. Lena was quieter but watchful, her eyes taking in everything, her tiny fingers already reaching for Ma's colored pencils. "They're so smart," Mia's new manager at the clinic remarked, watching Noah stack blocks in complex patterns. "And those eyes, they look like little adults sometimes. So serious." Maya had kept her promise not to contact Alexander. Some nights when the twins were asleep and the loneliness felt like a physical weight, she would start to compose messages to him on her phone, only to delete them immediately. What could she say? That his children were thriving without him? That she still woke from dreams where he apologized? Where he saw their children and fell instantly in love with them? The truth was simpler and harder. He had made his choice and she was making hers every day. When the twins turned 5, disaster struck again. Budget cuts eliminated Mia's position at the clinic. The manager, teary-eyed, handed her a final paycheck and a glowing reference letter. "You're one of the hardest workers I've ever known," she said, hugging Maya. "I'm so sorry." The timing couldn't have been worse. Carmen had moved in with her daughter in New Jersey after fall left her unable to manage the stairs to their apartment. The twins were starting kindergarten, needing school supplies and new clothes. The freelance design work remained sporadic, not nearly enough to cover rent. For 3 months, Maya stretched every dollar, selling anything of value she owned. She took on night shifts cleaning office buildings, often bringing the twins with her, making pallets from spare blankets where they could sleep while she worked. "Is this your castle, Mama?" Lena asked one night, her small hand gesturing at the gleaming corporate headquarters Maya was scrubbing. "It's so shiny." "No, Mita," Maya answered, her heart breaking at the innocence of question. "But someday we'll have our own beautiful home." When the eviction notice came, Maya had nowhere left to turn. The twins' kindergarten teacher noticed their increasing fatigue, the way they hoarded food from snack time. "Miss Rodriguez, is everything all right at home?" she asked gently after school one day. Maya's carefully maintained facade crumbled. "We're being evicted," she whispered. I've tried everything. The teacher connected her with a family shelter in the Bronx, a converted hotel with small private rooms for families. That night, Maya sat the twins down in their nearly empty apartment. We need to have an adventure for a little while, she explained, forcing brightness into her voice. We'll stay at a special hotel until we find our new home. Like camping? Noah asked, his blue eyes, so like Alexander's, wide with excitement rather than fear. Something like that, Maya answered. Pulling them close will make it fun. Their first night in the shelter, Maya created a fort from the thin blankets provided, telling stories of brave explorers as the twins giggled inside their makeshift tent. Once they fell asleep, she slipped out, sitting on the edge of the narrow bed, allowing herself 5 minutes of silent tears before straightening her shoulders. Every morning, she woke before dawn to wash their school uniforms in the communal bathroom sink, drying them with a hand dryer so the twins wouldn't look different from the other children. She walked them to school before rushing to her new job washing dishes at a restaurant 10 blocks away. Your children are exceptional, the kindergarten teacher told her during a parent conference. Noah has a photographic memory. He can recall entire pages from books we've read once, and Lena's mathematical abilities are years beyond her grade level. Pride mixed with sadness in Maya's chest. Her children were extraordinary, carrying gifts that might open doors for them if she could keep them housed, fed, and in school long enough. One evening, while cleaning a downtown advertising agency, Maya found a damaged laptop in the trash bin. The IT department had discarded it after a coffee spill damaged the keyboard. For 3 nights, she tinkered with it after the twins were asleep, combining parts from other discarded electronics until she had a functioning computer. In the dim light of the shelter room, while Noah and Lena slept on their cot, Maya began creating digital versions of her designs. Her fingers, raw from cleaning chemicals, moved awkwardly at first over the keyboard, but soon found their rhythm. Night after night, she built a portfolio, her eyes burning from fatigue, but her spirit feeding on the creative work. Mama, you look tired, Lena observed one morning, her small hand touching the dark circles under Mia's eyes. I'm working on something important, Maya explained, tucking her daughter's dark curls behind her ear. Something that will help us find a real home again. The twins started bringing home perfect test scores, their natural intelligence shining despite their circumstances. Their teacher recommended them for the gifted program, a special track that would challenge their exceptional minds. There's no additional cost, she assured Maya, seeing her immediate concern, but it could lead to scholarship opportunities in the future. As the twins thrived academically, Maya continued her nightly routine, putting them to bed in the shelter, then working on her designs until exhaustion claimed her, sometimes looking at their sleeping faces, Alexander's eyes, her determination. She wondered if he ever thought of them, if he ever regretted his choice. Then she would return to her work, channeling that pain into creativity, building something from nothing, just as she had been doing since the day he walked away. While Maya observed the twins entering the public school with their patched backpacks, she couldn't have imagined that in a few months, an accidental encounter with an executive would completely change her trajectory, placing her on the path to becoming one of New York's most sought-after designers. While Maya observed the twins entering the public school with their patched backpacks, she felt a familiar knot in her stomach. 6 years had passed since that day in the hospital when she'd made her promise. And while she had managed to keep them alive and learning, she couldn't say she had truly thrived. The temporary shelter had become their home for longer than she'd ever imagined. M. Rodriguez, the school secretary, called from the doorway. Principal Watkins would like a word. Maya's heart sank. Another conversation about the twins' address, perhaps. The school had been understanding about their housing situation, but there were limits to their flexibility. Principal Watkins was a kind-faced woman with silver streaked hair who motioned for Maya to sit. I'll be direct, Ms. Rodriguez. The district is implementing budget cuts. The parents' aid position you've been filling. I'm afraid we can't continue it past this month. The part-time job answering phones and filing paperwork at the twin school had been a godsend, allowing Maya to work while the twins were in class and pick them up afterward. The loss of even this modest income was devastating. I understand, Mia said, maintaining her composure, though panic bloomed in her chest. "Thank you for the opportunity you've given me." Walking back to the shelter that afternoon, the twins skipping ahead of her on the cracked sidewalk, Maya calculated and recalculated their dwindling resources. Even with her night cleaning jobs and weekend dishwashing, they wouldn't make it to the end of the month. That evening, the final notice arrived. The shelter program had a 3-month maximum stay, and their time was up. "Where are we going next, Mama?" Noah asked, his intelligent eyes watching her fold their few clothes into backpacks. "Another adventure," Maya answered, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. They spent their first night of homelessness in the emergency room waiting area of Bronx General Hospital, Maya claiming Noah had a stomach ache, so they could stay in the heated building until morning. The twins curled against her on the hard plastic chairs, somehow managing to sleep, while Mia remained vigilantly awake. "Are we really on an adventure, Mama?" Lena whispered the next morning as they washed in the hospital bathroom. Maya knelt before her daughter, smoothing her tangled hair. "Yes, ma'am, and the most important part of any adventure is keeping up appearances." She pulled their neatly ironed school uniforms from her backpack. "We may not have everything, but we will always have our dignity." For the next 2 weeks, they rotated between the hospital waiting room, a 24-hour laundromat, and occasionally the apartment of one of Mia's co-workers, who let them sleep on her floor when her boyfriend was away. Each morning, Maya ensured the twins were clean, fed from her dwindling funds, and dressed in their pristine uniforms before school. During the day, she washed dishes at a diner that paid cash, soaking her cracked hands in scalding water for 8 hours straight. Evenings found her cleaning offices in Midtown, the twins often accompanying her, doing homework under desks or napping on makeshift beds of spare cleaning rags. "Look, Noah," Lena exclaimed one night, discovering a box of discarded office supplies. New pencils. The twins had become experts at finding treasures in others' trash. Slightly used notebooks, broken calculators that still functioned, abandoned umbrellas missing spokes. Maya watched them extract joy from these small discoveries with a mixture of pride and heartbreak. "Mama, Mr. Lywood says I have a photographic memory," Noah announced one evening as they cleaned the 14th floor of an investment firm. He showed me a page from his history book, and I could remember every word. "And Ms. Chun says I can do 5th grade math," Lena added, not to be outdone. "She gave me special problems today." Maya paused her mopping, taking in their eager faces. Both had inherited Alexander's striking blue eyes, eyes that now watched her expectantly, hungry for praise, for acknowledgement of their exceptional gifts. "I'm so proud of you both," she said, her throat tight. "You are the most brilliant children I know." What she didn't say was how those brilliant minds deserve more than sleeping on floors and doing homework by security lights. How their potential might wither without proper nurturing. How the contrast between their academic capabilities and their material circumstances felt like a cruel joke. At parent-teacher conferences, Maya sat straight back in her carefully maintained single dress shirt, listening as teachers praised her children's extraordinary abilities. Noah recited an entire page from our science textbook word for word after reading it once. His teacher explained, leaning forward earnestly. "And Lena solved algebraic equations I prepared for my 4th grade advanced group. They've always been quick learners," Maya replied, pride momentarily overwhelming her exhaustion. "They should be in specialized programs." The teacher continued, "With the right opportunities. There's no limit to what they could achieve." The words followed Maya for days, haunting her as she scrubbed bathroom floors and scrubbed dishes. The right opportunities. The phrase seemed to mock her as she counted the few dollars in her wallet, deciding between laundry, soap, and bread. One night, while cleaning a particularly upscale advertising agency, Maya noticed a laptop in the trash bin. The case was cracked and the screen had a spiderweb of damage in one corner, but something made her slip it into her cleaning cart. Back at the laundromat where they were spending that night, while the twins slept on chairs pushed together, Maya examined her find. The laptop had been discarded due to coffee damage on the keyboard and the crack case, but the hard drive and processor were intact. Over the next week, Maya scavenged parts from other discarded electronics, a keyboard from one trash bin, a power cord from another. Using skills she'd learned from watching repair videos at the public library, she cobbled together a functioning computer. "Is that ours?" Lena asked one night, watching Maya boot up the refurbished laptop. "Yes, it's for my work," Maya explained, opening a basic design program she downloaded at the library. "Now I can create digital versions of my designs." The twins watched in fascination as she transformed hand-drawn sketches into polished digital renderings. Soon, this became their nightly routine. After finding a place to sleep, a church basement that allowed overnight stays twice weekly, a women's shelter when they had openings, the back room of the restaurant where Maya washed dishes when the manager took pity on them. She would wait for the twins to fall asleep, then work on her portfolio until her eyes burned with fatigue. "Why don't you send those to people who could hire you?" Noah asked one night, having woken to find Maya still working. His question, so simple and direct, stopped her fingers on the keyboard. "I don't have connections in the design world anymore," she explained gently. "It's not that simple, Mamor." But his words planted a seed. The next day, Maya used the public library computer to research entry-level design positions and freelance opportunities. Most required formal education, which she had, and an extensive portfolio, which she was building. The obstacles seemed insurmountable, but for the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a different future. Each night, as the twins slept wrapped in blankets on whatever floor they found shelter on, Maya worked on her designs, creating imaginary spaces that reflected both her formal training and the practical ingenuity she developed through years of making do with almost nothing. "Your uniforms need washing tonight," Maya reminded the twins one Wednesday morning as they ate day-old bread from the bakery discount bin. "But they're not dirty, Mama," Lena protested, examining her cuffs. "Appear matter," Maya repeated her mantra. "People judge what they see first." That evening, Mia took the twins to an office building in Midtown, where she had a cleaning shift. The security guard, accustomed to seeing them, nodded as they entered. 2 hours on the 12th floor, he said, handing her a key card. "Place is empty tonight." The twins settled into their usual spot in the break room, spreading homework across the table while Maya began her cleaning routine. She saved the executive washroom for last, planning to hand-wash their uniforms in the sink. As she pushed her cart into a large conference room, Maya noticed a gleaming screen still running a slideshow presentation. Impulsively, she connected her battered laptop to one of the projection ports, gasping softly as her designs appeared, magnified on the wall-sized screen. For several minutes, she stood transfixed, seeing her work professionally displayed for the first time in years. The clean lines, the thoughtful use of negative space, the clever integration of sustainable materials. All the elements that had once earned her top marks in design school now seemed to take on new life in this professional setting. Lost in the moment, Maya didn't hear the office door open or notice the woman standing in the doorway until a voice broke the silence. "Did you create these?" Maya whirled around, her heart pounding. A tall woman with steel gray hair cut in a precise bob stood examining the projected images, her expression unreadable. "I'm sorry," Maya stammered, reaching to disconnect her laptop. "I shouldn't have." "These are extraordinary," the woman interrupted, stepping closer to examine a rendering of a small urban apartment transformed through clever space utilization. "Who taught you?" The question echoed another lifetime when Alexander had asked the same thing while looking through her portfolio. This time Maya stood straighter. "I have a degree in interior design from NYSID," she said. "These are just some personal projects." The woman turned to face her fully, taking in Maya's cleaning uniform and worn hands with new interest. "I'm Jessica Winters. This is my agency, and I think we need to talk." While Mia watched Jessica examine her portfolio with critical eyes, the twins slept peacefully under their blanket fort in the break room, unaware that their lives were about to change completely. Neither Maya nor the children could have imagined that in a few months her name would be mentioned in the same elite circles that had once excluded her, or that fate was preparing an unexpected encounter that would bring the past rushing back in explosive fashion. "I'm Jessica Winters. This is my agency, and I think we need to talk." Maya's hands trembled as she reached for her laptop, her mind racing between panic and a strange, unexpected hope. Had she just ruined her cleaning job by using company equipment for personal purposes, or was this something else entirely? I'm sorry for using the projection system. I was just, Maya began, but Jessica held up a perfectly manicured hand. These spatial concepts are remarkable, Jessica said, stepping closer to examine the screen. The way you've maximized flow in such constrained environments shows an intuitive understanding most designers lack. She turned, her sharp eyes assessing Maya with newfound interest. You said NYSID. When did you graduate? 6 years ago? Maya answered, unconsciously straightening her posture despite her cleaning uniform. Top of my class. Jessica's eyebrows rose slightly. And now you're cleaning offices. The question held no judgment, only genuine curiosity. Maya hesitated, pride wearing with honesty. Life took an unexpected turn. I have twins. Priorities shifted. A slight smile crossed Jessica's face. I understand. Shifting priorities. I started this agency when my daughter was 2. She gestured toward Mia's laptop. May I? For the next 20 minutes, Jessica scrolled through Mia's portfolio while Maya stood awkwardly in her cleaner's uniform, hyper aura of the chemical smell of disinfectant clinging to her clothes. The contrast between them couldn't have been more stark. Jessica in her tailored designer suit that probably cost more than Maya earned in 3 months. Maya in her faded polyester uniform with a small tear mended in the sleeve. This one, Jessica said finally, pausing on a design for a small urban apartment that maximized natural light through creative mirror placement. This shows a unique perspective. Where did you draw inspiration for this? From living in small spaces, Maya answered honestly. When you've had to make 400 square foot work for 3 people, you learn to think differently about space. Jessica nodded thoughtfully. We need that kind of practical creativity. Most designers think only in terms of aesthetics, not actual livability. She closed the laptop and handed it back to Maya. We have an opening for a junior design assistant. The salary isn't impressive, but it includes health insurance. Are you interested? Maya stared at her, certain she had misheard. You're offering me a job. You don't even know me. I know your work, Jessica replied simply. The rest we can figure out. Can you start Monday? The world seemed to tilt beneath Maya's feet. Monday was 5 days away. 5 days to figure out childcare, appropriate clothing, transportation from whatever shelter they could find each night. I have twins, Maya said again, more deliberately this time. 6-year-olds. My schedule would need to accommodate school hours, and we have flexible hours and a small day room my granddaughter uses when she visits. Your children would be welcome there after school. Jessica's expression softened slightly. Talent like yours shouldn't be wasted on cleaning toilets, Maya, especially not when it's clearly needed to support your family. Maya's eyes burned with unexpected tears. Yes, she whispered. I can start Monday. After exchanging contact information, Jessica left, the click of her heels on the polished floor fading as Maya stood frozen in disbelief. Only when she heard Noah's small voice did she snap back to reality. Mom, are you okay? Ma turned to find both twins standing in the doorway, their blue eyes wide with concern. Yes, Mamor, she said, kneeling to gather them both in her arms. I'm better than okay. I got a job, a real design job. That night, huddled in the church basement shelter, Maya borrowed another resident's phone to call Carmen with the news. Do Carmen, exclaimed, her voice crackling over the connection. I knew it would happen, Nia. Your talent was always too big to stay hidden forever. It's entry level. Maya cautioned, not wanting to overstate the opportunity. And the salary is modest. But it's a beginning, Carmen insisted. The right beginning. The next 5 days passed in a blur of preparations. Maya used nearly all her savings to secure a week at a budget motel, the first real beds they'd had in months, and spent hours at thrift stores searching for appropriate office attire. She found 2 acceptable blouses, a skirt, and a pair of slacks that could be mixed and matched, along with a pair of second-hand leather pumps only half a size too large. Monday morning arrived with heart-pounding intensity. Maya woke the twins before dawn, their excitement infectious as she explained the new routine. You'll go to school as usual, she told them as they ate the motel's complimentary breakfast. After school, you'll come to my new office instead of meeting me at the restaurant. There's a special room where you can do homework while I finish work. Is it a fancy office? Lena asked wide-eyed. Very fancy, Maya confirmed, helping them into their uniforms with big windows and computers and important people making beautiful things. Maya dropped the twins at school, then took the subway to the Winters creative office in Chelsea. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she entered the sleek building so different from the service entrances she'd used as a cleaner. The receptionist, occupying the same role Maya had once filled at Pearson Holloway, looked up with a professional smile. May I help you? I'm Maya Rodriguez. I'm starting today as a junior design assistant. The words felt foreign on her tongue, like speaking a language she'd once known but had nearly forgotten. Of course, Jessica mentioned you. The receptionist, Alicia, according to her nameplate, handed Maya a security badge. The team is excited to meet you. The Winters creative office was a vast open concept space with exposed brick walls, polished concrete floors, and clusters of workstations separated by glass panels covered in design notes and sketches. Natural light poured through massive windows, and the air hummed with creative energy. Jessica emerged from a conference room, spotting Maya immediately. Maya, perfect timing. Come meet the team. The next hour passed in a whirlwind of introductions. Some team members were openly welcoming, while others regarded her with subtle skepticism. The newcomer without agency experience, hired personally by Jessica after being discovered cleaning floors, Maya was assigned a small workstation near the windows, complete with a state-of-the-art desktop computer and design software she had only read about in magazines. Her first assignment was straightforward. Create conceptual sketches for a boutique hotel lobby renovation. Nothing fancy, explained Mark, the senior designer, supervising her. Just preliminary concepts to get a feel for your process. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she opened the software, acutely aware of being observed. 6 years of designing on a salvaged laptop had not prepared her for the crisp responsiveness of professional equipment. Yet, as soon as she began working, muscle memory took over. Her formal education, combined with years of practical problem-solving, flowed through her fingertips. By lunchtime, she had produced 3 distinct concepts, each reflecting different approaches to the space while maintaining the client's sustainability requirements. When Mark returned to check her progress, his eyebrows rose in surprise. These are unexpected, he said, scrolling through her work. Most juniors stick to safe, conventional designs. Maya tensed, uncertain if this was criticism. I can revise them to be more standard if... No, Mark interrupted, a smile breaking through professional demeanor. These are good, really good. They show original thinking. He pointed to her third concept, which repurposed architectural elements from the building's original structure. This one especially, very clever use of existing materials. That afternoon, the twins arrived wide-eyed and slightly nervous, clutching their backpacks. Maya introduced them to the team, her heart swelling as several designers made a point of welcoming them, showing them the day room with its small art table and bookshelf. Your mom is very talented, Jessica told them, kneeling to their level. We're lucky to have her on our team. By the end of her first week, Maya had earned cautious respect from her colleagues. By the end of the first month, she had contributed significant elements to 3 major projects. And by the end of the third month, she had saved enough to put a deposit on a small 1-bedroom apartment in Queens. The day they moved in, the twins ran from room to room in delight. Though there was barely any furniture, just a second-hand mattress, a small table with chairs from a discount store, and 2 bean bags for the twins. We have our own home again, Lena marveled, spinning in circles in the empty living room. And you have your own room, Maya added, showing them the small bedroom with twin mattresses on the floor. I'll sleep on the pull-out couch in the living room. That night, after the twins were asleep, Maya sat by the window of their new apartment, looking out at the Queens streetscape. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to truly believe in possibility again. Her salary was modest, but with health insurance and regular hours, she could provide stability for her children. The gifted program at the twin school had identified them for potential scholarships to better schools in the future. Life was still challenging, one emergency away from financial distress, but they had shelter, food, and dignity. Maya opened her laptop, now dedicated solely to her own design work rather than their survival, and began working on a personal project, a line of space-saving furniture designs inspired by their years of making do with less. As she worked into the night, Maya couldn't know that the small personal project would eventually become her signature design approach, or that in 3 years, her name would be mentioned in the same elite circles that had once excluded her, or that fate was preparing an unexpected encounter that would bring the past rushing back in explosive fashion. As Maya worked into the night, her fingers flew across the keyboard with a confidence that had been absent for years. 3 years had passed since that fateful night when Jessica Winters had discovered her cleaning the office floor, and life had transformed in ways she once couldn't have imagined. Now 34, Maya had progressed from junior assistant to senior designer at Winters Creative, her natural talent finally finding the platform it deserved. The alarm on her phone chimed softly, reminding her it was already past midnight. She saved her work and closed the laptop, stretching as she rose from her desk. Her home office, a dedicated corner of their new two-bedroom apartment, was modest but functional with organized design samples and a pin board covered with magazine clippings and fabric swatches. Maya padded quietly down the hallway, pausing at the twins' bedroom door. At 9 years old, Noah and Lena slept peacefully in their own beds. Real beds with matching nightstands, not mattresses on the floor. Their room was painted a soft blue that highlighted their striking eyes when they were awake, filled with books and educational toys acquired gradually as Maya's financial situation improved. She smiled at the science fair ribbons pinned to the corkboard above Noah's desk and the math competition medals hanging beside Lena's carefully arranged collection of crystals. Their exceptional minds continued to blossom, now nurtured by the specialized program for gifted students at their school. The following morning, Maya arrived early at the Winters Creative office, coffee in hand, reviewing client notes before the day's major presentation. The nervous junior designer she'd once been had evolved into a confident professional whose opinion was sought and valued. "Maya, there you are," Jessica called, emerging from the conference room. "The Clarendon Hotel team just called. They want to add sustainable elements to the lobby redesign. Can you integrate that into the presentation?" "Already on it," Maya replied, pulling up her digital sketches. "I anticipated they might head in that direction after our last meeting. I prepared some concepts using reclaimed materials that actually reduced their overall budget." Jessica's approving nod was all the validation Maya needed. 3 years ago, such confidence would have been unimaginable. Now it was her daily reality. The client meeting went exceptionally well. Maya's presentation, combining elegant aesthetics with practical sustainability, impressed the hotel executives. "You have a remarkable eye for finding beauty and simplicity," the hotel's owner commented. "Most designers try to dazzle us with extravagance. Your approach feels authentic." Back at her desk, Mia found an email from Jessica with the subject line, "Important opportunity." Inside was a proposal that made her heart race. Jessica was offering Maya the chance to develop her own line of sustainable wallpapers under the Winters Creative brand umbrella. "Your cultural influences bring something unique to our portfolio," Jessica wrote. "Your design should carry your name. Rodriguez Designs has a nice ring to it." Maya sat back momentarily overwhelmed. This wasn't just a professional opportunity. It was validation of everything she'd fought for, a chance to create something that was wholly hers, something that could secure a future for her children. That evening, Maya shared the news with the twins over dinner in their small but comfortable kitchen. "Does this mean you'll be famous, Mama?" Lena asked, her blue eyes so like Alexander's, wide with excitement. "Hardly," Maya laughed. "But it means I can create beautiful things that other people might want in their homes, and it means more security for us. You should use the patterns from Abuela's stories," Noah suggested thoughtfully, "the ones about the coqui frog and the rainforest." Maya smiled, touched by how her children embraced their Puerto Rican heritage despite never having visited the island. "That's a wonderful idea, mi amor." Later that night, after the twins were asleep, Maya began sketching. Her designs incorporated subtle elements from the Puerto Rican folk tales her grandmother had told her, Stylized coke frogs hidden in tropical foliage, patterns inspired by colonial Spanish architecture in Old San Juan, abstract representations of the island's bioluminescent bays. Each design was refined through a distinctive lens, minimalist, practical, yet unexpectedly warm. For weeks, Maya worked late into the night, perfecting her collection. The twins would sometimes find her asleep at her desk in the morning, pencil still in hand, surrounded by sketches. "Mama works too hard," Lena whispered to Noah one morning as they quietly prepared their own breakfast, letting their mother sleep a few extra minutes. "That's how she takes care of us," Noah replied with the wisdom of a child who had witnessed struggle firsthand. The launch of Rodriguez Designs was scheduled at a small gallery in Brooklyn, an intimate gathering of industry professionals rather than the flashy Manhattan events typical of larger design houses. Maya had insisted on keeping it authentic, choosing a venue in the borough where she had once struggled to survive. "Are you nervous?" Jessica asked as they arranged sample displays the morning of the event. "Terrified," Maya admitted, adjusting a panel of wallpaper that featured a subtle pattern inspired by the ceiling of a cathedral in San Juan. "What if no one comes?" Jessica smiled knowingly. "Trust me, they'll come. Word has been spreading about your work for months." To Maya's astonishment, the gallery was packed within an hour of opening. Design bloggers, magazine editors, and industry influencers circulated through the space, photographing her work and engaging her in conversations about her creative process. "There's a freshness to your perspective," commented an editor from Architectural Digest, studying a wallpaper design that transformed a simple geometric pattern with unexpected color transitions. "We'd love to feature your collection in our next issue." By evening's end, Maya had received 3 commissions for her custom residential projects and an invitation to collaborate with a sustainable furniture designer. As the crowd thinned, a distinguished older man approached her, introducing himself as the owner of Bergdorf's home department. "Your work has soul," he said simply. "Most designers create pretty things. You create meaningful spaces. We should talk about an exclusive retail arrangement." Walking home that night, Maya felt a curious lightness. After years of bearing the crushing weight of survival, success felt almost disorienting in its unfamiliarity. The Architectural Digest feature appeared 2 months later, a 4-page spread showcasing Maya's wallpaper collection installed in a restored brownstone. Order began flowing in, and Jessica helped Mia hire 2 assistants to manage the increased workload. For the first time, Maya had financial breathing room, enough to start a modest college fund for the twins and move them to a slightly larger apartment with a proper home office. One evening, while helping the twins with homework at their kitchen table, Lena looked up suddenly with a question that caught Maya off guard. "Why doesn't our father ever visit us? Billy at school has 2 dads who live in different houses, but they both come to his baseball games." Maya set down her pencil, choosing her words carefully. "Some people aren't ready to be parents when they have children. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Did he know about us?" Noah asked, his blue eyes, Alexander's eyes piercing their directness. "Yes," Maya answered honestly. "He knew, but he didn't want us," Lena concluded, her voice small but matter-of-fact. "It wasn't about wanting you," Maya said, reaching for her daughter's hand. "It was about his own choices and priorities. Sometimes people can't see beyond themselves to recognize what truly matters." That night, Maya passed the twins' bedroom on her way to the kitchen and overheard their whispered conversation. "Maybe he didn't want us because we're not good enough," Noah suggested softly to his sister. "Or enough," Lena added. "Mrs. Winter says Mama is special because she understands how regular people live, not just fancy people." Maya pressed her hand against the wall, tears burning in her eyes. Despite her best efforts, her children still carried the invisible wound of rejection. In her bed later that night, she allowed herself to cry quietly before rising with renewed determination. Success wasn't just about financial security. It was about showing her children their worth was never in question. The following week, Maya received a call that changed everything. A luxury department store wanted to sell her wallpaper collection exclusively, offering an advance that would secure the twins' educational future. That same afternoon, Jessica invited her into the office with an unexpected proposal. "I want to make you a partner. Jessica said, without preamble. Your vision has transformed what we can offer clients. You deserve equity in the company. Maya was stunned. I'm honored, Jessica. Truly. But I need to build something that's completely my own for the twins, for myself. Jessica nodded with understanding. I thought you might say that. My offer stands whenever you're ready. That weekend, Maya and the twins set up her newly expanded home studio. Noah carefully arranged her design books, while Lena proudly hung the Rodriguez Designs logo on the wall, a simple word mark Maya had created incorporating subtle elements of Puerto Rican cultural symbols. Is this your company, Mama? Lena asked, adjusting the frame to make it perfectly level. Yes, Maya answered, her chest tight with emotion. It's our future. While Maya signed a contract for her first major commission, redesigning the interior of a boutique hotel in Manhattan. She couldn't imagine that this project would place her directly in Alexander Bennett's path again, or that her children were about to meet the man who had rejected them before they were even born. While Maya signed a contract for her first major commission, redesigning the interior of a boutique hotel in Manhattan. She couldn't imagine that this project would place her directly in Alexander Bennett's path again, or that her children were about to meet the man who had rejected them before they were even born. Sunday mornings had become sacred in the Rodriguez household. After years of working multiple jobs, often 7 days a week, Maya now protected Sundays fiercely. It was their family day. No work calls, no design emergencies, just Maya and the twins spending quality time together. This particular Sunday dawned with perfect early summer weather. Mia prepared a picnic basket, while the twins argued good-naturedly about which books to bring. We're going to the park to play, not to study. Maya reminded them, packing sandwiches and sliced fruit into containers. Reading is playing for my brain, Lena replied with a precociousness that both amused and occasionally worried Maya. At 9 years old, her daughter sometimes spoke like a tiny professor. The Central Park they entered was a far cry from the one Maya had visited with Alexander years ago. Then she'd been an outsider, acutely aware of her Brooklyn address and modest clothes. Now she walked with confidence, her simple but well-cut sundress and quality sandals, the uniform of a successful career professional rather than a struggling receptionist. They found a perfect spot near the conservatory water, spreading their blanket on a gentle slope that offered shade from a massive oak tree. Maya set up her portable workspace, a sketch pad, and her tablet, while the twins immediately began exploring the area around them, always staying within her line of sight. Don't go far, Maya called automatically, though she knew they were responsible children who never wandered. We'll stay where you can see us, Noah promised, his blue eyes serious beneath his dark curls. Maya smiled, watching them for a moment before turning to her work. The boutique hotel project required preliminary sketches by Monday, and while she guarded her Sundays, this small compromise felt necessary. She became absorbed in her designs, occasionally looking up to check on the twins who were exploring the area, collecting interesting leaves and watching people. Across the park, Alexander Bennett sat alone on an exclusive bench, reserved for park patrons who had made substantial donations to Conservancy. His tailored Armani suit looked incongruous on a Sunday morning, but he had come directly from a brunch meeting with potential investors. At 35, Alexander had achieved everything he'd once told Maya he wanted. He was now CEO of Pierce & Holloway Investments, with a corner office overlooking Manhattan and a reputation as one of Wall Street's most aggressive young executives. His recent marriage to Catherine Wellington, daughter of Senator Wellington, had been featured in the society pages of every major publication. The wedding at the Plaza had cost more than most Americans earned in 5 years. The honeymoon in the Malda had been even more extravagant. Yet here he sat alone, eating a sandwich between meetings, checking his Patek Philippe watch, a wedding gift from his new father-in-law valued at more than $100,000. Lena noticed him first, her extraordinary mathematical mind automatically cataloging patterns and anomalies. The man sitting alone caught her attention because he seemed out of place, overdressed, isolated, and most strikingly possessed eyes identical to hers and Noah's. "Look, Noah," she whispered, nudging her brother. "That man has eyes like ours." Noah followed her gaze, his photographic memory immediately registering the similarity. The twins exchanged a glance, Their silent communication as effective as words after 9 years of shared existence. With the natural curiosity of children who had been raised to be respectful but not fearful, they approached Alexander cautiously. "Excuse me, sir." Lena began politely when they reached his bench. "May we join you for lunch?" Alexander looked up at his phone, his customary dismissal of interruptions dying on his lips as he found himself staring into a pair of eyes that mirrored his own with uncanny precision. Not one pair, but two. Both children standing before him had the distinctive crystalline blue eyes that had marked Bennett family members for generations. The sandwich Alexander had been about to bite into remained suspended halfway at his mouth as a cold wave of recognition washed over him. His mind raced, calculating timestamps with precision that had made him a financial prodigy. 9 years ago, Maya, the pregnancy twins. How old are you?" he managed, his normally confident voice reduced to a rasp. "We're 9, Noah answered matter-of-factly. Alexander's heart pounded against his ribs. 9 years, exactly the right age. It couldn't be coincidence. "What are your names?" he asked, struggling to maintain his composure. Lena, always slightly more forward than her brother, offered her hand with surprising formality. "I'm Lena Rodriguez, and this is my brother, Noah. We noticed you have eyes like ours. Nobody else has eyes exactly like ours." The surname confirmed what Alexander already knew with sickening certainty. Rodriguez, Maya's children, his children. The children he had called unwanted obstacles and dismissed from his life with a torn check and cruel words. Before he could respond, a voice cut through the air, a voice he hadn't heard in 9 years, but recognized instantly. "Noah, Lena." Maya's voice carried across the grass, urgent and sharp. Alexander turned to see her hurrying toward them, her face draining of color as their eyes met. For 9 years she had imagined this moment, rehearsed what she might say, how she might feel, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of seeing Alexander sitting just feet away from her children, their children. She stopped several yards away, her body rigid with shock and something deeper, a protective instinct that radiated from her like heat. "Maya," Alexander said, her name emerging as barely more than a whisper as he stood automatically. For a suspended moment, they stared at each other, 9 years of absence compressed into a single charged gaze. Alexander saw a woman transformed from a young design student he had dismissed. Her posture radiated confidence. Her simple clothes spoke of quiet success, and her eyes, the warm brown eyes he had once claimed to love, now regarded him with weary recognition, but no warmth. "Children, come here now," Maya said, her voice steady despite the tremor he could detect beneath its surface. "But, Mama," Noah protested, his eyes just like ours. "Yes," Lena added with innocent excitement. "Exactly the same color. Is he related to us?" The question hung in the air like a thunderclap. Maya extended her hand toward her children, her gaze never leaving Alexander's face. "Now," she repeated, her tone leaving no room for argument. The twins, confused but obedient, moved toward their mother. Alexander watched them go, these perfect little people with his eyes and Maya's determination, walking away from him just as he had once walked away from them. "Maya, wait," he called, finding his voice. "Please, can we talk?" She turned back briefly, her expression unreadable. 6 years too late," she replied, her voice low enough that the children couldn't hear. With that, she guided the twins away, her protective arm around their shoulders as they peppered her with questions she clearly wasn't answering. Alexander remained standing long after they disappeared from view, his forgotten sandwich on the bench beside him, his mind reeling with the implications of what had just happened. He had children, twins, with the crystalline blue eyes that had been the Bennett family trademark for generations. That night, Alexander lay awake beside Catherine in their penthouse apartment, the encounter in the park playing on endless loop in his mind. The children's faces, his features blended with Maya's in a genetic masterpiece, haunted him. Their polite voices, their intelligent questions, their obvious curiosity and well-being despite growing up without his support. At 3 o'clock in the morning, he slipped out of bed and went to his home office. With hands that rarely trembled, he picked up his phone and called Jerome Walters, the private investigator the Bennett family had used for generations. I need information on Maya Rodriguez, he said without preamble when Walters answered. Current address, employment, financial situation, and her children, twins, a boy and a girl, 9 years old. When do you need this? Walters asked professional, as always despite the hour. Yesterday, Alexander replied. For the next week, Alexander found himself distracted during meetings. His legendary focus shattered by memories of those matching blue eyes looking up at him with innocent curiosity. The detailed report Walters delivered only intensified his preoccupation. Maya Rodriguez, once a struggling single mother who had faced homelessness, was now a rising star in interior design. Her Rodriguez Designs wallpaper collection had been featured in major publications. She lived in a modest but respectable apartment in Queens. The twins attended a public school with a prestigious program for gifted children. She had done it all without a penny of his money, without the Bennett name, without the advantages he considered essential for success. 1 week after the park encounter, Alexander stood outside Maya's apartment building in Queens, a world away from his Manhattan penthouse. He pressed a buzzer for apartment 3B, his heart racing with an unfamiliar anxiety. When the door opened, Maya stood framed in the entrance, her expression indicating she wasn't entirely surprised to see him. She wore simple jeans and a blouse, a far cry from the designer clothes his wife favored. Yet, she carried herself with a dignity that made such comparisons meaningless. "What do you want, Alexander?" she asked directly, making no move to invite him inside. "To meet my children," he answered with equal directness. Maya laughed, a short sound devoid of humor. "Your children, you call them unwanted obstacles. You chose your career, your social position. You have what you wanted." "I made a mistake," Alexander admitted, the unfamiliar taste of humility bitter on his tongue. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. What you did was a deliberate choice that left us with nothing," Maya responded, her calm demeanor more damning than any display of anger could have been. "Fortunately, we survived." While Maya observed Alexander shifting uncomfortably in the hallway, she couldn't know that the twins were about to return from their after-school program, or that this unexpected reunion would set in motion a chain of events that would force both adults to confront the consequences of choices made 9 years ago. While Maya observed Alexander shifting uncomfortably in the hallway, she felt a strange sense of detachment. The man before her, impeccably dressed in what she now recognized as a bespoke suit worth thousands, seemed both familiar and utterly foreign. His blue eyes, the exact shade their children had inherited, showed an emotion she'd never seen there before. Uncertainty. "I can help now. Financially. Alexander continued when Maya remained silent. "They are Bennett after all. They are Rodriguez," Maya corrected firmly, crossing her arms. "And we don't need your charity." "It's not charity. It's my responsibility," Alexander insisted, an edge of frustration creeping into his voice. He glanced past her into the apartment, modest but tastefully decorated with touches that spoke of Mia's design sensibility. "Look at this place, Maya. They deserve more." The condescension in his tone ignited a slow, burning anger within her. More than what? A roof, food, love? They have all that. What they never had was a father, and money can't buy that. Alexander flinched visibly at her words. Before he could respond, the sound of voices in the hallway made them both turn. Lena and Noah were approaching, accompanied by Mrs. Patel from downstairs, who often walked them home from their after-school program. "Thank you, Mrs. Patel," Maya called, forcing warmth into her voice. "We appreciate you bringing them home." The elderly woman smiled, patting each twin on the shoulder before continuing to her own apartment. The twins stopped when they saw Alexander, recognition dawning in their identical blue eyes. "It's the man from the park," Lena whispered to Noah, though her voice carried in the narrow hallway. Alexander knelt down, bringing himself to their eye level, his expression softening in a way Mia had never witnessed before. "Hello again," he said, his voice gentler than she remembered it could be. Mia moved quickly to position herself between Alexander and the children. "This is an old friend of Mommy's who came to visit," she explained, her eyes warning Alexander not to contradict her. The twins studied Alexander with undisguised curiosity. "Why are you wearing a suit on a Tuesday?" Noah asked with a directness only a child could manage. Alexander smiled, seemingly caught off guard by the question. I came from work. I work in finance with money and investments. Like stocks and bonds? Lena asked, her eyes lighting up. We're learning about the stock market in our advanced math class. Alexander's surprise was evident. Yes, exactly like that. You're learning about finance in elementary school. Only the basics, Lena replied seriously. But I read additional books from the library. Maya placed her hands on the twins' shoulders. It's homework time now. Please go inside and get started. I'll be there in a minute to help. The twins glanced between Maya and Alexander, clearly sensing the tension, but obediently went inside. When the door closed behind them, Maya turned back to Alexander, her expression hardening. Let me be clear. You don't get to just walk back into their lives because you suddenly feel curious or guilty. You made your choice 9 years ago. I want to make it right, Alexander said, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair, a gesture Maya remembered from their past. I have resources now, connections. I can give them opportunities you can't imagine. Like, you gave me the opportunity to terminate my pregnancy, Maya asked quietly, her words landing like precise knife strikes. Or the opportunity to be homeless with infant twins after you had me fired. Alexander paused. I was young, ambitious, scared, and now you're what? Old, successful, and brave. Maya shook her head. They're doing fine without the great Alexander Bennett in their lives. They're brilliant, kind, and resilient. They got that from me, not from your DNA. At least let me help financially, Alexander pressed. College funds, private schools. We're managing just fine. Maya cut him off. My career is taking off. They have scholarships at their current school. We don't need your money. They're my children, too, Ma, Alexander said, his voice rising slightly. I have rights. Rights? Mia stepped closer, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You forfeited any rights when you said I should choose between you and those children, because you couldn't let unwanted obstacles interfere with your path to the top. Those were your exact words, Alexander. I remember them perfectly. Alexander looked away, unable to meet her gaze. I was wrong. I see that now. 9 years too late, Maya replied, her hand on the doorknob. Don't come here again. If you want to discuss this further, have your lawyer contact me. She closed the door firmly, leaning against it as she heard his footsteps retreat down the hallway. Her heart pounded in her chest, adrenaline coursing through her system, through the apartment. She could see the twins at the kitchen table, their heads bent over their homework, unaware that their lives had just shifted on their axis. Over the next week, Alexander made repeated attempts to insert himself into their lives. Expensive packages arrived. A gaming system, designer clothes, tablets, all returned unopened. Maya blocked his number after the third call, but that didn't stop him. On Thursday, Maya received a call from the twin school. M. Rodriguez, there was an incident today, the principal explained carefully. A man claiming to be the twins' father arrived during lunch period. He wasn't on the approved pickup list, so security prevented him from entering, but he left gifts with the front office. Maya gripped the phone tightly. I'm so sorry. He is their biological father, but he has never been involved in their lives. Please don't allow him access under any circumstances. That evening, she sat the twins down for a conversation she'd hoped to postpone until they were older. The man who came to our apartment and who you met in the park, he is your biological father, she explained gently. We figured that out, Lena said, her expression serious beyond her years. Because of our eyes. Why hasn't he been around before? Noah asked, his voice small. Maya chose her words carefully. When I told him I was pregnant with you both, he wasn't ready to be a father. He made the choice not to be part of our family, and now he wants to be. Lena's question was astute, cutting to the heart of the matter. I think he's realizing what he missed, Maya answered honestly. But that doesn't mean our lives have to change. We've been a perfect family of 3 for 9 years. The twins exchanged one of their communicative glances. Can we think about it? Noah asked. Of course, Maya assured them, pulling them both into a hug while her heart acted the complexity of the situation. The following Monday, Maya received an email from Pierce and Holloway Investments requesting a meeting with its CEO regarding a potential design project. She immediately recognized the ploy, but was surprised by Alexander's assumption that she would fall for something so transparent. What Maya couldn't have known was that Alexander hadn't sent the email. It had come directly from Eleanor Bennett, Alexander's mother and chairwoman of the Pierce and Holloway board of directors. Eleanor Bennett had learned of the twins' existence through Alexander's increasingly distracted behavior at board meetings and a careless comment from his personal assistant about family complications. Having Alexander followed was a simple matter. The Bennett family had maintained relationships with private investigators for generations, protecting their interests from scandal and threats. The photographs of Alexander outside Maya's modest Queens apartment, followed by detailed reports about Mia's rising career and the existence of Bennett grandchildren living in relative obscurity, had sent Eleanor into a calculated fury. These children, with their unmistakable Bennett blue eyes, represented both a threat and an opportunity. A threat to the carefully orchestrated merger of families through Alexander's marriage to Sierra Wellington, but also an opportunity to control a situation before it spiraled into public scandal. That evening, Alexander's secure phone line rang in his private home office. Only 5 people had this number, and when he saw a mother on the caller ID, he felt a chill of premonition. Alexander. Ella Lehner's voice was perfectly modulated, betraying nothing of her emotion. I believe we need to discuss your extracurricular activities in Queens. Alexander closed his eyes briefly. How did you? Please, Ella Lehner interrupted. The Bennett family has never allowed itself to be blindsided. I've known about your little visits since the day after they began. They're not activities, Mother. Lena and Noah are my children. Yes, Ella Lehner said, the word dropping like ice into the conversation. Your illegitimate children with a woman from a distinctly inappropriate background, conceived while you were being groomed for leadership, born while you were establishing yourself at the firm, and now conveniently discovered after you've married into the Wellington family and secured their political connections for our expansion plans. It's not like that, Alexander protested. I just learned about them by chance. I'm trying to make things right by disrupting multiple lives and potentially damaging the firm's reputation. I think not. Ella Lehner's tone remained unnervingly calm. I've arranged a meeting. The girl, the children, you and I will discuss how to handle the situation appropriately. Maya won't come, Alexander said with certainty. And they're not a situation to be handled. Everyone has a price. Alexander, you taught me that. Ella Lehner paused meaningfully. The meeting is arranged for Saturday at 3 o'clock at the house. Don't be late. As the line went dead, Alexander stared at the phone in his hand. Across town in her Queens apartment, Maya was receiving a formal invitation to the Bennett family mansion delivered by private courier, requesting her presence to discuss matters of mutual interest regarding familial connections. While Maya closed the door after the courier left, examining the heavy cream envelope with an embossed Bennett family crest, she couldn't predict that the matriarch of the Bennetts was already mobilizing considerable resources to eliminate what she considered a threat to the dynasty, or that Maya would soon be confronted with an impossible choice in a mansion where the value of the carpets exceeded everything she owned. While Maya closed the door after the courier left, she stared at the heavy cream envelope in her hands. The embossed Bennett family crest shimmered under the hallway light, its gold leaf catching the glow with an almost taunting opulence. Her fingers traced the raised design, the very symbol of the world that had once deemed her unworthy. For several moments, she considered throwing it away unopened. Whatever Eleanor Bennett wanted could hardly benefit Maya or her children. Yet curiosity and perhaps a deeper need for resolution made her break the wax seal. The invitation inside was printed on paper, so thick it felt like parchment. The elegant script requesting her presence along with the minor children Lena and Noah Rodriguez at the Bennett family residence on Fifth Avenue that Saturday afternoon. The wording was coldly formal, making no reference to the children's relation to the Bennett family. Maya placed the invitation on her kitchen counter, her mind racing. Meeting with Alexander was one thing, a confrontation between equals, adults who shared a history. But Ella Lehner Bennett was different. Maya had never met the woman, but Alexander's occasional references years ago had painted a picture of calculated ambition and ruthless social climbing disguised as old money dignity. That night, after the twins were asleep, Maya called Jessica Winters. "You've been invited to the Bennett mansion." Jessica sounded genuinely surprised. "The Ella Bennett? The woman practically owns half of Wall Street. She wants to meet my children," Maya said quietly. "Alexander's mother." "Ah." A moment of understanding silence followed. "You never told me their father was a Bennett." "It wasn't relevant to my work," Maya replied. "And it's not something I discuss." "Are you going?" Jessica asked. "I shouldn't," Maya said, yet her tone lacked conviction. "Nothing good can come from it." Or Jessica suggested carefully, "It could be an opportunity to establish boundaries on your terms. You're not the same struggling girl you were when you had the twins. You're Maya Rodriguez, whose designs are featured in Architectural Digest. Go as an equal, not a supplicant." After a restless night, Maya decided Jessica was right. Running from the Bennett would only give them power. She would go, but solely to make it clear that neither she nor her children were available for manipulation. Telling the twins proved harder than expected. "We're going to meet your grandmother," she explained over breakfast, watching their expressions carefully. "We have a grandmother." Lena's eyes widened like in books. The innocent question pierced Maya's heart. The twins had grown up without extended family. Carmen was the closest thing to a grandmother they'd known. "She's your father's mother," Maya clarified. "She's very different from us. She lives in a very big house on Fifth Avenue. Will our father be there, too?" Noah asked, his voice carefully neutral in the way children manage when trying to hide their emotions. "Yes," Maya admitted, "but this isn't about him becoming part of our lives. This is about meeting once, so they understand our family is complete just as it is." Saturday arrived with perfect early summer weather. Maya dressed with deliberate care, choosing a simple but beautifully cut navy dress from her own design collaboration with a sustainable clothing brand. The twins wore their best clothes, not expensive, but neat and well-maintained. "Remember," Maya told them as their taxi approached the imposing limestone mansion on Fifth Avenue. "No matter what happens inside, we are the Rodriguez family. We're strong together." The uniformed doorman who admitted them barely concealed his disdainful assessment, his eyes lingering on their simple clothes and the taxi departing from the curb. Inside, a butler led them to the mansion's vast foyer, where crystal chandeliers hung from coffered ceilings and priceless art adorned silk-covered walls. The twins walked close to Maya, their eyes wide as they took in surroundings that seemed lifted from a fairy tale. Lena whispered something to Noah, who nodded in silent agreement. They were shown to a formal sitting room where Ella Bennett sat regally on an antique settee. Though in her 70s, she remained striking, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, her posture impeccable, her fingers adorned with heirloom jewelry that could have funded the twins' college education several times over. Alexander stood by the fireplace, tension evident in his stance. He wore casual weekend attire that probably cost more than Mia's monthly rent. His eyes met Mia's briefly before shifting to the twins with unmistakable hunger. "Miss Rodriguez," Ella said, not rising. "Thank you for joining us, and these must be the children." Maya placed a protective hand on each twin's shoulder. "Yes, Lena and Noah." Ella studied them through narrowed eyes, her gaze lingering on their striking blue eyes, the undeniable Bennett trademark that proclaimed their heritage more effectively than any DNA test. "Please sit." Ella gestured to a sofa across from her. The twins settled on either side of Maya, their small bodies pressed against hers for reassurance. "I prefer to be direct," Eleanor began, her voice cultured but cold. "This situation requires immediate resolution. The Bennett family has maintained its position through careful management of both finances and reputation." "The situation?" Maya repeated, her voice deliberately even. "You mean your grandchildren?" Eleanor's lips thinned. "Biologically speaking, perhaps, but we must address practicalities. Alexander has recently married into the Wellington family, securing important political connections for our firm's expansion. This complication could threaten delicate negotiations." Maya felt the twins stiffen beside her, and her protective instinct flared. "My children are not a complication, Mrs. Bennett. They're human beings who have lived their entire lives without the father who rejected them." Alexander stepped forward. "Mother, I told you this approach wouldn't work." Eleanor ignored him, reaching for an envelope on the inlaid table beside her. "Let's dispense with pleasantries, Miss Rodriguez." "How much?" "Excuse me?" Maya's voice remained calm, though her heart raced. "How much?" Evelina repeated, sliding the envelope across the coffee table. "For you to disappear with these children and never contact our family again?" A heavy silence fell over the room. Maya stared at the envelope, making no move to take it. Beside her, the twins remained silent, though she could feel Lena trembling slightly. "There is no amount of money that would make me do that, Mrs. Bennet," Maya finally said, her voice steady. "Everyone has a price," Eleanor insisted, tapping one manicured finger on the envelope. "I've made the initial offer generous, but we can negotiate if necessary." "I didn't come here for money," Maya replied, meeting Eleanor's cold gaze directly. "I came only to make it clear that I don't want anything from your family except to respect our privacy." Eleanor's expression hardened. She turned to Alexander. "This is precisely why these entanglements with inappropriate people become problematic. They develop unrealistic expectations." "Mother," Alexander warned, his face flushing. Eleanor ignored him, focusing again on Maya. "What exactly do you want then? Public acknowledgement, the Bennett name, social connections?" "Nothing," Maya answered simply. "We've managed 9 years without Bennett money or the Bennett name. My children are thriving. I came here today only because I thought it might provide closure." Eleanor studied Maya with new calculation, apparently reassessing her opponent. Then she turned to Alexander, her voice taking on a steely quality. "Choose now, Alexander. Either this Latina woman and her street children, or your $200 million inheritance and your position as board chairman." Maya fought to keep her expression neutral as she felt the twins' questioning gazes. She hadn't expected Eleanor to be quite so brutal, especially with the children present. Alexander stood frozen, his face a mass of conflicting emotions. The silence stretched until it became uncomfortable. Maya began to stand, ready to remove her children from this toxic environment. When Alexander's movement stopped her, with deliberate slowness, he removed the PC Philippe watch from his wrist, the family heirloom that had been passed down through generations of Bennett men, and placed it on the marble table with a decisive click. "My children are Bennett by blood," he said, his voice finding strength with each word. "And I choose to be the father they deserve and the man Maya always believed I could be, even when I didn't believe in myself." Eleanor's face flushed with anger. "You're throwing away generations of hard work and social position because of a youthful mistake." "No, Mother," Alexander replied, his eyes never leaving Mia's stunned face. "I'm correcting the greatest mistake of my life." While leaving the Bennett mansion, the twins holding timidly to Mia's hands, she couldn't imagine that in 1 year she would enter that same house as an equal, not as a supplicant, but as one of New York's most prestigious designers, hired by Eleanor Bennett herself for a project that the matriarch would never have imagined entrusting to the woman she had considered inferior. While leaving the Bennett mansion, the twins holding timidly to Maya's hands, she felt a curious lightness despite the emotional turbulence of the past hour. Alexander's gesture, renouncing his inheritance and position for children he barely knew, seemed too theatrical to be genuine. Yet the look in his eyes as he'd placed that priceless watch on the table had contained something she'd never seen there before. Conviction. "Are we really Bennett?" Lena asked as they climbed into a taxi, her voice small but curious. "You're Rodriguez," Maya answered firmly. "You have Bennett blood, but your identity isn't determined by DNA. It's shaped by the life we've built together." 1 year passed, a year of cautious adjustments and redefined boundaries. True to his word, Alexander had walked away from Pearson Holloway, resigning his position in a move that shocked the financial world. The business press had speculated wildly about his departure, rumors of misconduct, strategic disagreements with the board, even health issues, but the truth remained private. His marriage to Catherine had ended with surprising amicability. As it turned out, she had viewed their union primarily as a business merger herself and harbored no romantic illusions. With a generous settlement and her family connections intact, Catherine had released Alexander from their marriage with the same efficiency with which she managed her charitable foundation. Alexander had purchased a modest 3-bedroom apartment in Queens, not far from Maya and the twins. Not the penthouse in which he'd once lived, but a comfortable space that reflected his new priorities. He'd started a boutique financial advisory firm, taking only clients whose values aligned with his evolving perspective. Maya had allowed Alexander to begin building a relationship with Noah and Lena, not as their father returning to the family fold, but as someone who needed to earn their trust. Twice, weekly dinners, occasional weekend outings, school events. Alexander attended them all with consistency that surprised Maya. "Why are you doing this?" she had asked him one evening after he dropped the twins home from a museum visit. "Is it guilt obligation?" At first, maybe, Alexander had admitted, but now they're extraordinary, Maya. Being around them makes me see the world differently. There was no romantic reconciliation between Maya and Alexander. That bridge had been thoroughly burned years ago. But over months of co-parenting discussions and child care logistics, a tentative respect had formed. The man who had once dismissed her as inadequate for his world now sought her advice on connecting with their children. Meanwhile, Maya's career had soared in new heights. Rodriguez Designs had expanded beyond wallpaper to encompass full residential and commercial interiors. She'd hired a small staff, moved into a proper studio in Brooklyn, and begun turning down more projects than she accepted, in a development that still made Mia laugh with it. Irony, Eleanor Bennett had unwittingly commissioned Rodriguez Designs to renovate the east wing of the Bennett mansion. The project had come through an architectural firm that frequently collaborated with Maya, and Eleanor, impressed by the portfolio presented without connecting the designer's name to her grandchildren, had approved the selection. On a crisp autumn morning, Maya arrived at the Bennett mansion for the final walkthrough of the completed renovation. She wore a simple but elegant pantsuit from her own collaboration with an ethical fashion designer, her confidence evident in her stride as she climbed the limestone steps she had once approached with trepidation. The butler who opened the door didn't recognize her, politely directing her to the east wing where Mrs. Bennett is waiting to inspect the work. Mia found Eleanor in the newly redesigned drawing room, her back to the door as she examined the custom millwork Maya had designed to showcase the family's art collection. "The craftsmanship is exceptional," Ella Lehner commented without turning. "The integration of modern elements while honoring the historical integrity is precisely what She broke off as she turned and recognized Maya. "You! Good morning, Mrs. Bennett," Maya replied with professional composure. "I'm glad the renovation meets your standards." Ella Lehner's shock quickly gave way to calculation. Her eyes narrowed as she assessed Maya anew, taking in her transformed appearance and confident bearing. "This is your work." Eleanor gestured to the room around them. "All of it?" "Yes." Rodriguez Designs was contracted through Harrington Architects. Maya maintained her professional tone. "I personally oversaw every aspect of the renovation." Eleanor moved to an antique desk, lifting a portfolio with Maya's name embossed on the cover. "So, I've been inadvertently patronizing the very person I tried to dismiss from our family circle." "Business and personal matters are separate," Maya replied evenly. "But if you'd prefer to work with another designer for future projects, I understand completely." Ella Lehner studied Maya with new intensity. "It appears I underestimated you, Miss Rodriguez. A rare miscalculation on my part." She gestured to the transformed space around them. "This work shows remarkable sophistication. You've managed to honor tradition while creating something distinctly contemporary." The compliment, however reluctantly given, represented a shift that Maya couldn't have imagined a year earlier. Ella Lehner Bennett, the woman who had once offered to pay her to disappear with her grandchildren, was now acknowledging her professional expertise. "If you're satisfied with the work, I'll have my team conduct a final systems check before we consider the project complete," Maya said, maintaining her professional distance. "I am satisfied," Ella Lehner conceded, the words clearly difficult for her to pronounce, perhaps more than I expected to be. That afternoon, Maya arrived at the twin school for their science fair. Now 10 years old, they had inherited not only Alexander's blue eyes, but also his analytical mind and Maya's creative problem-solving. Their project, a sustainable urban garden system designed for apartment dwellers, had earned them a finalist position. "Mom, we won first place," Lena called as Maya approached her display. "Our vertical garden system got perfect scores. Noah added, his eyes shining with excitement. And dads come and see it, too. The ease with which they now use the word dad still occasionally startled Maya, though she had come to accept Alexander's place in their lives. When he arrived moments later, the twins proudly showed him their award certificate. This is incredible engineering, Alexander praised, examining their irrigation system. You've considered water conservation, space efficiency, and even aesthetic appeal. Later, as the fair wounded down, Alexander approached Maya while the twins packed up their project. They mentioned you help with the structural elements, he said. The supports for the vertical panels are ingenious. They did most of it themselves, Maya replied. I just help with some of the technical challenges. An awkward silence fell between them, not hostile, but weighted with history. Alexander broke it with an unexpected question. Do you think you'll ever fully forgive me, Maya? She considered his question seriously, watching the twins laugh together as they dismantled their display. Forgiveness implies that I'm still holding on to the pain, she finally answered. I'm not. I moved past you a long time ago. What matters now is that the twins have the father they deserve. The rest is just history. Alexander nodded, accepting her answer. You've built something remarkable with them. With your business. I was wrong about everything. Not everything, Maya corrected him. You were right that I didn't belong in your world. But you were wrong about which world had actual value. As they watched the twins approaching, their award certificate held proudly between them, Alexander smiled with genuine warmth. The most valuable legacy a Bennett could have, he murmured. And I almost missed it completely. While observing the twins running toward them in the school gymnasium, their smiles illuminating the air between them, Maya finally understood that her true victory wasn't in proving her worth to Alexander or to the world, but in having found her own strength, a strength that now allowed her to look toward the future without fear, knowing that what once broke her had become a foundation upon which she had built a life of dignity, purpose, and unconditional love. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.